Seth Rollins has sacrificed more of his physical health for WWE's entertainment than any other current superstar, and the company's response has been to demand even more from his broken body. What I'm about to reveal about WWE's systematic destruction of their so-called Monday Night Messiah will make you furious about how this company treats the performers who built their empire. The knee injury that ended Seth Rollins' 2015 WWE Championship reign wasn't just bad luck. It was the inevitable result of a booking philosophy that required him to take increasingly dangerous bumps to prove he deserved the opportunities that other wrestlers received without question. WWE turned Seth into their workhorse and then acted surprised when his body started breaking down under the workload. But here's what WWE will never tell you. Seth Rollins' injury history reads like a medical textbook of professional wrestling's most devastating career-ending conditions. Torn MCL, damaged meniscus, herniated discs, concussion symptoms, and chronic back problems that have required multiple surgeries. And WWE's response? Book him in more high-risk matches that guarantee additional damage. The stomp finishing move that made Seth Rollins famous is literally destroying his knees with every single impact. WWE's medical staff knows that repeatedly jumping and landing on his surgically repaired knee is causing cumulative damage that will affect him for the rest of his life. But they continue booking him to perform the move multiple times per week because it generates crowd reactions. WWE's treatment of Seth Rollins during his 2015 injury recovery reveals the company's true priorities when it comes to performer health. Instead of allowing adequate rehabilitation time, WWE rushed him back to action because they needed their workhorse to carry storylines that less reliable performers couldn't handle. His premature return led to additional complications that could have been avoided with proper medical care. The most shocking aspect of Seth Rollins' physical sacrifice is how WWE uses his dedication against him. They know he'll perform through pain, work injured, and push beyond safe limits to deliver entertaining matches. So they consistently book him in situations that would break lesser performers, treating his reliability as an excuse to increase rather than manage his workload. Seth Rollins' back problems aren't just occupational hazards, they're the direct result of WWE's booking decisions that required him to take chair shots, ladder bumps, and table spots that his body couldn't handle. Every Monday Night Rollins performance that fans celebrated was Seth literally sacrificing years of his post-wrestling health for temporary entertainment value. The CrossFit training that Seth Rollins uses to maintain his WWE physique is actually making his injury problems worse. The high-intensity workouts that keep him in main event shape are placing additional stress on joints and muscles that are already compromised from years of wrestling abuse. But WWE encourages this training because it maintains the physical appearance they demand from their top performers. WWE's medical clearance process for Seth Rollins has become a joke within the wrestling industry. Independent medical experts have questioned how someone with his documented injury history continues receiving approval for high-risk matches that could result in permanent disability. The company's team doctors seem more concerned with keeping performers available than protecting their long-term health. The Hell in a Cell matches that WWE books for Seth Rollins aren't just dangerous spectacles, they're systematic abuse of a performer whose body has already reached its breaking point. The cage structure, steel steps, and announced table spots that define these matches guarantee additional damage to joints that have already undergone multiple surgical repairs. Seth Rollins' painkiller usage during his peak WWE years remains a closely guarded secret, but industry insiders suggest that his ability to perform through injuries that would sideline other wrestlers required pharmaceutical assistance that created its own health risks. WWE's culture of performing through pain pushes wrestlers toward substance dependencies that can destroy their post-career lives. The most infuriating part of WWE's treatment of Seth Rollins is how they've made his injury recovery a storyline element rather than respecting his need for legitimate medical care. His comebacks from surgery are presented as inspiring triumphs instead of acknowledgments that the company's booking philosophy nearly ended his career. WWE's decision to make Seth Rollins their Iron Man performer during the pandemic era when other top stars were unavailable revealed their complete disregard for his physical limitations. While wrestlers like Roman Reigns were protected from potential health risks, Seth was expected to carry the company through multiple pay-per-views and television appearances that increased his injury risk. The latter matches that built Seth Rollins' reputation as WWE's ultimate risk-taker were slowly destroying his spine with every single bump. The Money in the Bank ladder match victories that launched his main event career came at the cost of vertebrae compression and disc damage that will affect him long after his wrestling days are over. Seth Rollins' willingness to work through concussion symptoms to avoid missing television appearances demonstrates the toxic culture that WWE has created around performer availability. Missing shows due to head injuries is treated as a sign of weakness rather than a legitimate medical necessity, encouraging wrestlers to hide symptoms that could indicate serious brain trauma. The steel cage matches that WWE books for Seth Rollins aren't just exciting stipulations, they're guaranteed opportunities for additional injury that the company knows his body can't handle. Climbing steel structures and taking bumps onto unforgiving surfaces creates impact forces that his surgically repaired joints can't absorb without sustaining additional damage. WWE's handling of Seth Rollins' back injury during his Universal Championship reign proves that the company values entertainment over performer welfare. Instead of modifying his schedule or match types to accommodate his physical limitations, WWE continued booking him in situations that aggravated his condition and required additional medical intervention. The training regimen that WWE demands from Seth Rollins to maintain his position as a top performer is physically unsustainable for someone with his injury history. The combination of strength training, cardio work, and in-ring preparation places stress on his body that exceeds his ability to recover between performances. Seth Rollins' merchandise sales success has made him more valuable to WWE as an active performer than as a healthy human being. The company's financial investment in his character and marketing campaigns creates pressure to keep him working regardless of his physical condition, prioritizing short-term profit over long-term performer welfare. The most damaging aspect of Seth Rollins' WWE career is how the company has normalized the expectation that top performers should sacrifice their post-wrestling quality of life for current entertainment value. His willingness to work through pain has become the standard that other wrestlers are expected to match, creating a culture of competitive self-destruction. WWE's medical staff faces an impossible situation with Seth Rollins because their job security depends on clearing performers for action rather than protecting them from additional injury. Team doctors who recommend extended recovery time risk being replaced by medical professionals who are more willing to approve questionable clearances. The psychological pressure that WWE places on Seth Rollins to perform through injuries extends beyond physical health to mental wellness. The fear of losing his position, disappointing fans, or being replaced by younger talent creates stress that can actually slow healing and increase the likelihood of re-injury during his matches. Seth Rollins' relationship with pain medication during his most injury-prone years represents a crisis that WWE has never publicly acknowledged. The combination of legitimate medical need and performance pressure creates conditions where prescription drug dependency becomes almost inevitable for wrestlers trying to maintain their careers. The Monday Night Raw schedule that requires Seth Rollins to perform multiple times per week doesn't allow adequate recovery time between matches, creating a cycle of cumulative damage that makes new injuries more likely and existing problems more severe. WWE's television commitments prioritize content production over performer health. Seth Rollins' decision to continue wrestling despite his extensive injury history isn't just about dedication to his craft, it's about economic necessity in an industry that provides limited post-career financial security. WWE's contractor status for performers means no guaranteed pension or long-term healthcare coverage that might allow injured wrestlers to retire gracefully. The high-impact finishing moves that define Seth Rollins' character aren't just signature spots, they're repetitive trauma that's systematically destroying his body with each performance. The stomp, superkick, and knee trembler moves create impact forces that his surgically repaired joints can't withstand indefinitely. WWE's booking philosophy treats Seth Rollins' injury history as evidence of his toughness rather than warnings about his physical limitations. Instead of protecting their investment by reducing his high-risk match situations, the company continues placing him in scenarios that virtually guarantee additional damage. The rehabilitation process that Seth Rollins undergoes between injuries isn't just medical treatment, it's a race against WWE's impatience with injured performers. The company's pressure to return quickly often cuts recovery time short, leading to re-injuries that could have been prevented with adequate healing time. Seth Rollins' training partnerships with other WWE performers create additional injury risks because his workout partners often lack the experience to recognize when training intensity exceeds safe limits. CrossFit sessions and sparring matches designed to improve performance sometimes result in training injuries that compound his existing problems. The travel schedule that WWE maintains for Seth Rollins during his active periods doesn't account for the additional recovery time that injured performers require. Flying multiple times per week, sleeping in hotel beds, and carrying luggage creates physical stress that healthy wrestlers can manage but injured performers cannot. WWE's insurance coverage for Seth Rollins' wrestling-related injuries provides medical care but doesn't address the long-term financial impact of chronic health problems that will affect his post-wrestling career. The company's responsibility ends when he stops performing, leaving him to manage decades of accumulated damage on his own. The most tragic aspect of Seth Rollins' physical sacrifice is how WWE has turned his injury comebacks into marketing opportunities rather than acknowledging their role in creating the conditions that led to his health problems. His resilience becomes corporate content while the underlying causes of his injuries remain unaddressed. Seth Rollins' current physical condition represents the inevitable result of WWE's performer exploitation strategy. The company identified him as someone willing to sacrifice his long-term health for short-term entertainment value, then systematically took advantage of that dedication until his body reached its breaking point. The wrestling industry's treatment of injured performers like Seth Rollins reveals a fundamental disrespect for the human beings who create the entertainment that generates billions in revenue. Companies that profit from physical performance have a moral obligation to protect the people whose sacrifice makes their success possible. WWE's handling of Seth Rollins' career demonstrates how the wrestling industry exploits performer dedication to justify corporate policies that prioritize profit over human welfare. His willingness to work through pain has become an excuse for booking decisions that would be considered abuse in any other entertainment context. The long-term consequences of Seth Rollins' WWE career will extend far beyond his retirement from active competition. The accumulated damage from years of high-impact performances will affect his quality of life, mobility, and overall health for decades after his last match, while WWE moves on to exploit the next generation of performers willing to make similar sacrifices. Seth Rollins' story isn't unique in professional wrestling, but it perfectly illustrates how the industry's most dedicated performers often pay the highest price for their commitment to entertaining audiences who remain largely unaware of the human cost behind their favorite matches and storylines. The systematic destruction of Seth Rollins' physical health represents professional wrestling's greatest moral failure: the willingness to sacrifice performer welfare for corporate profit while marketing that exploitation as heroic dedication to the craft of sports entertainment.